Hey everyone, GOTLG fan here, and welcome back to another video. So today, welcome back to r/ProRevenge. I've been looking at the subreddit for a while, and I don't see many good stories in this one. The first one we have is Nigerian scammer. One time I had some gold jewelry for sale online, and supposedly someone called me that had an African accent, and he stated he's willing to pay quite a bit more than my asking after I ship it to him and give him the tracking number. I instantly knew this was a scam. Fortunately, my cousin showed me a website called shitexpress.com. Okay? It's a website that you can anonymously send animal shit to someone either as revenge or as a prank. They have horse, cow, and pig shit. I pig shit and had it shipped to the address that the scammer gave me, and he sent me a fake check through FedEx. I called the bank to verify, and sure enough, it was bogus. I texted the scammer a week later to see if he got the package, and he texted back telling me not to talk to him, and he put a stop payment on the check. I texted him with the middle finger emoji, and his last text said same to me. Anyway, I recommend the site to everyone. Okay, this one is funny. I love this story, OP. Good on you. The HOA president's long goodbye. Posting this on behalf of a friend who isn't on Reddit. This is for you, Jake. Yeah, Jake, this is for you. I'm even putting this in the video. Okay, let's read it. When I moved into my suburban neighborhood, I expected peace and quiet. Instead, I walked into a petty dictatorship run by a HOA president, Todd. Todd was the worst kind of leader. The kind who loved power but hated accountability. He enforced ridiculous rules, like fining people $200 for leaving their trash cans out a minute past 9 a.m., while blatantly ignored the rules when it suited him. His own yard was a mess of unpermitted structures, and his fence was taller than allowed by city ordinances. But Todd's true sin? Using the HOA as his piggy bank. At first, I tried reasoning with him. My fence was slightly off color because the approved stain wasn't available, and he fined me $500. I explained, provided receipts, and asked for leniency. Todd smirked, and rules are rules, is what he said, and he walked away. That's when I decided to take him down, not with screaming or public arguments, but methodically, legally, in a way he never recovered from. Step 1. Become the inside man. Todd's first mistake was underestimating me. I volunteered for the HOA board under the guise of wanting to get involved in the community. I played the part of the eager, naive newbie perfectly. For 2 years, I attended every meeting, quietly observing how Todd operated. I learned he controlled the board by bullying other members and burying them in paperwork. He'd push through votes when only his allies were present, and conveniently lose paperwork submitted by dissenting homeowners. I kept my head down, took detailed notes, and waited. My goal was to outlast his term as president so I could begin making changes. Then I discovered Todd's second mistake. He wasn't just a bully, he was a thief. Step 2, follow the money. Todd loved to brag about how he kept the HOA's finances in order. But something didn't add up. The annual fees were high, much higher in similar neighborhoods, but the common areas were falling apart. The pool was closed after summer due to maintenance issues, and the landscaping looked like it hadn't been touched in months. I started digging. As the HOA treasurer, Todd had access to all the accounts, but he was, notoriously cagey about sharing the financial details. I asked for budget during a meeting, and Todd laughed it off, saying, "Don't worry, we have got it under control." I filed the formal complaint to the financial records, which under HOA rules was required to provide. Weeks went by with no response. That's when I started talking to neighbors. Turns out I wasn't the only one suspicious. Over a dozen homeowners had requested access to the budget over the years, only to be ignored. One neighbor claimed Todd had used HOA funds to install a new patio at his house, while another swore he'd seen Todd's kids at the community pool during his maintenance closure. Armed with these suspicions, I filed a formal complaint with the HOA board, forcing Todd to provide his records, but he stalled. But I wasn't backing down. Step 3. Build the case. When Todd finally handed over the financial documents, they were a mess. Invoices were missing, payments were mislabeled, and some expenses were downright bizarre. A $15,000 landscaping fee paid to a company that didn't exist. Thousands spent on administrative costs with no explanation. I cross-referenced the HOA's bank statements with public records and found the smoking gun. Todd was funneling money to his personal accounts. Even better, I discovered Todd had been inflating contractor fees, pocketing the difference, and splitting the profits with his buddy, a shady contractor who handled most of the HOA's maintenance. I compiled everything into a detailed report, complete spreadsheets, photos, and notarized statements from neighbors who had seen Todd's antics firsthand. Step 4. The coup. I waited for the annual HOA meeting, which was typically a snooze fest attended only by a handful of homeowners. But this time I made sure people showed up. I spent weeks knocking on doors explaining what Todd had been up to. I didn't share everything, just enough to get people angry and curious. On the night of the meeting, the room was packed. Todd started the meeting like usual, droning on how difficult it was to manage the HOA and how much he sacrificed for the community. Then I stood up. I calmly asked if he could explain some discrepancies in the budget. Todd laughed nervously and said, "I don't think this is the time or place." I replied, "Actually, Todd, this is the perfect time." I handed out copies of my report to everyone in the room. The mood shifted instantly. People started reading, whispering, and then shouting. Todd tried to remain controlled, but it was too late. I called for a vote to remove him as president. By the end of the night, Todd was out. Step 5, the final blow. Job. Kidding. After Todd was removed, we hired an independent auditor to go through our HOA's finances. They confirmed everything. Todd had embezzled over $50,000, mismanaged tens of thousands more, and committed multiple counts of fraud. We reported him to the police and filed a civil lawsuit to recover the stolen funds. But it didn't end there. Todd's shady contractor buddy was also exposed and banned from doing business in the county. Todd had to sell his house to pay restitution and legal fees. His name became a running joke in the neighborhood, and no one would touch him professionally. With Todd gone, we resorted to the HOA to prevent another dictator from taking over. We implemented term limits, required multiple board members to approve financial decisions, and created an online portal so the homeowners could access budget and meeting minutes. The aftermath. Every time I walked past Todd's old house, now owned by a lovely family, I smile. The pool is open, the landscaping is beautiful, and the HOA fees are lower than ever. Todd, meanwhile, moved to a neighboring town, where he reportedly tried to join another HOA board, only to be laughed out of the room when someone Googled his name. Justice wasn't served. It was plated, garnished, and savored. Wow! This is a good thing that I don't live in an HOA neighborhood. Good for you, OP. I do apologize if there's a sun glare, because my bedroom window is like right here. Next story. Cheat on your wife with mine, I will burn your life to the ground. Way back in the early 2000s, I began to suspect my wife was up to something. Our two kids were about 4 and 6, still young, but not so young they couldn't tell you something about what had happened in their day. They started talking a lot about staying with my wife's parents during the day, which really wasn't that strange in on itself. But since they lived about 90 minutes away, doing so 2 or 3 times a week seemed a bit much. When I asked her about it, she denied it, but was never a good liar. So I started tracking the mileage on her car, and sure enough, she was driving an extra 400 miles or so per week. I knew some shit was going on. Then one day, I sat down at the computer, and she left a sticky note with her AOL password written on it next to the keyboard. I could not resist and logged in to read her emails and saw a few email exchanges between her and her college BFF, where they discussed about how my wife was regularly fucking one of her ex-BFs from high school. Not to mention details about him in any other way, any other than my wife talking shit about his wife, making fun of how she'd gotten fat and having kids. Anyway, I printed out these email exchanges and stashed them. I still need to know some details, so I called a friend who was a cop, and he suggested a guy he knew that had left the force to become PI. Ron was great. I paid his retainer and gave him emails and what little I knew about my wife's activities, and he figured out exactly what she was doing. The report detailed with photos and times, dates, locations about how she would take the kids to her parents and then go meet this guy for lunch. Then they'd go to a dumpy motel for a few hours, after which she'd pick up the kids and return home. At this point, I hired a divorce lawyer. My parents cheated on each other, and the fallout absolutely screwed mine and my siblings' childhood, which was something that was totally unacceptable. I also asked Ron to find out what he could about the guy. Ron absolutely came through. I learned his name, Bob, that he was married and had 3 kids. I also found he was working as a VP of sales for his father-in-law business. At this point, I had my lawyer draw up divorce papers. I also asked Ron for a couple more copies of his report. And one more thing, wanted him to do for me. On the same day, I had my wife served with the divorce papers at her work. I had Ron meet with this guy's wife to show her everything he found out. She seemed nice and figured that she deserved to know what her dear hubby was up to. What she did with that information was up to her. While the information about my wife's infidelity didn't really matter about my divorce proceedings, Bob's wife did a real number on him. According to the publicly available court documents from the divorce and other related proceedings, she cleaned out their joint account, took the kids, and left. As soon as their dad found out what he'd done, Bob was fired, and since her parents actually owned the house where Bob and his wife lived, he also got evicted. Their divorce was ugly. Lots of fighting and evidently out of court. I guess Bob went to the house and started arguing with his wife, and it escalated to a point her brother stepped in and Bob got his nose broken. There were restraining orders, a few more incidents with the police reports, criminal charges, jail time, and so on. I can't find Bob on the internet anywhere these days. Last I heard, he left the state and his ex-wife did okay. She went to work for her dad's company and took over after he retired. As for my ex and I, we got along well enough. I didn't engage with her on anything that wasn't related to the kids, and now that they're both adults, I don't talk to her at all anymore. I don't hate her or anything, but I only care in the context that she and my kids' mom and is important to them. Nothing beyond that. Wow. OP. Your wife is a whore. Seriously. I'm gonna end the video here. So guys, that does it for this video. If you enjoyed it, click or tap that like button and subscribe for more, and follow me on my Instagram, Blue Sky, and don't forget, if you want to, follow me or support me on Patreon. I don't really post there regularly, but when I do, it doesn't really get much attention. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching this video. I'm gonna lay down and relax, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.